Now when I open this file up here, you'll see that these teeth are extremely yellowed and really need to be improved. Now, you can do this in several different ways, one of which is the exact same way that we just did the eyes. You could duplicate this layer, change the blend mode to screen, and then mask out certain areas of that image like so. However, one of the quickest and easiest ways to do this is by using a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, I'm going to add that hue and saturation adjustment layer, and just by clicking on it right down there in the layers panel, I'm also going to move this out of the way so we can see it a little bit better. Now, the main thing that's lying in here that's really causing this problem is the yellow tones in the teeth. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove the yellows from this photograph. So I'll select yellows from the edit menu up here, and then I'm going to take the saturation all the way down. Now you see when I do that, it automatically whitens up those teeth pretty significantly. If I turn on the preview, here's before and after, and you'll see there that it's really whitening up those teeth. However, what I also want to do is brighten them up a little bit. So let's go ahead now and we'll go back to the master, and we're just going to push the lightness value of this up quite a bit here. We'll push it up maybe to about plus 25 like so. Now we're affecting the entire image here, and that's something that we really don't want to do. So let's go ahead now and we will fix that problem. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we've already got this layer mask here, so I can't option click the layer mask button, but all I have to do is simply use Command I on the Mac or Control I on the PC to invert that layer, and that automatically hides those layer effects. Now what I can do is grab my brush tool simply by hitting the B key on my keyboard. I'll decrease my brush size probably to about 70 pixels. I'm going to keep my opacity of my brush probably around 70%. So just tap the number 7 key on your keyboard, and that will automatically change the opacity of the brush to 70%. I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is set to white, so I need to hit the X key on my keyboard to invoke the white color as my foreground color. And now I'm just going to brush in on these teeth that effect of that adjustment layer that we just created. So I'm just going to brush this in like so, and as I do this, you should see this instant whitening effect that we're creating on these teeth. Now if you feel that it's not exactly as light as you need it to be, go ahead and just keep brushing over these areas, because we're working with that 70% opacity brush. It's going to not have the full effect of that adjustment layer. So you need to keep brushing it in until you have the full amount of whiteness that you want. Now if you start to get into some of these extra areas up here that you really don't want to encroach on, just go ahead then, switch your foreground color to black, maybe decrease the size of your brush a little bit, and then you can brush those areas out as well. Now I'm going to zoom in here because there's some areas down here at the bottom that I really need to get into. So I'm going to lower the size of my brush, and I'm just going to paint these areas in simply by using white as my foreground color and then painting those areas with my nice small soft edge brush. Now I've also gotten a little bit outside the lines here, so I'll switch back to black as my foreground color by hitting the X key on my keyboard, and I'll just brush those out like that. So we'll just brush back in those darker tones so that we don't have the bleeding of the white coming out there, and I'll also clean up maybe some of these edges that I've had up here in the top as well, just to get a more defined line between the light and dark areas like so. And so now I'm going to zoom back out, and if I show you here, here's before and after, you see how effective this really is and how we've really brightened this smile and effectively removed all of that yellowish tone that this young lady had in her teeth. Now the last thing I'm going to show you here is kind of a special effect type thing that you see a lot in magazines, and that's how to create that nice little glimmer right there on the side of the teeth. You know, a lot of people, they have that game show smile where they have that little glimmer of light reflecting off the teeth. So in order to create this, it's actually very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon. I'm going to switch my foreground color to white by hitting the X key on my keyboard. Then I'm going to come up here to my brushes. And inside the brushes panel, I'm going to click this flyout menu at the top. I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose assorted brushes. Now Photoshop's going to ask me if I want to replace the current brush set with the assorted brushes. I'm going to say no, I don't want to replace them. I just want to append to the current list that I have. Now inside of these brushes here, let me expand this out so you can see it. There's a brush right here, this 48 pixel brush right here that looks like a little cross star. I'm going to go ahead and select that brush right there. and I'm going to exit out of the brushes and bring it right in here, and even increase the size of it maybe a little bit more, maybe up to about 60 pixels. And then I'm just going to, with the white as my foreground color, click right there on the edge of that. And if that's not enough for that, you can go ahead and add in another one as well, just to kind of brighten it up even more. Then to finish it off, go ahead and go back into your brushes palette, select a little soft edge brush, maybe this 13 pixel brush, come in here to the center. That's actually a little bit too small, so we'll increase the size just a little bit, and just with that nice soft edge brush, click right in there to add that nice little glimmer of light to finish it off and have a nice completely white and bright smile.